Well,
what do you think about?
I think the first thing that as a businessman you have to evaluate is if you still have the passion. Because I don't care, if you don't have the passion for your business to put in a 12-hour, 14-hour day to make ends meet, whatever happens around you, you're gonna be worn out and you're gonna give up.
Mhm.
And that's what happens to a lot of businesses, either if the owners are not satisfied personally, not necessarily financially, but personally. So you really have to have the passion for your business. That's the most important thing. Then you start to look at all the things that are happening around you, and you try to tailor your business to keep those things below the radar screen. And what I mean by that is 3 years ago, we saw gasoline prices at over $4 or close to $4 a gallon. And I'm now on my second hybrid within my company. My first was a 2005, and I drove that for 5 years, put 135,000 miles on it. And I now have my second hybrid, which is giving me close to 50 miles to the gallon. I had seen what gasoline did to our company, and I want to keep that below the radar screen, so I tried to be proactive and not let gas guzzlers consume my budget.
Mhm.
So our company actually has a pretty economical fleet. You see some of our cars like an HHR, which gets about 28 miles to the gallon. You know, you see a Chrysler minivan that gets about 22 miles to the gallon, and you see a Toyota Prius that gets to 50. And we really look at how carefully we use that resource, which is the gasoline consumes our operating budget. So we really look at it carefully.
So do you have a Prius car that
Yeah.
you drive that to make bids or meet with customers?
Well,
or,
I put in
because
over
it doesn't
30.
hold much equipment,
Well, actually, it does if you think about it.
does it?
Number one, for me personally, I've driven that car 31,000 miles this year. So that gives you an idea of how the business has changed. Years ago, if I worked in Bellows Falls, it seemed like it was a far trip. Now when I say I work in St. Albans, I leave the office at 5, I'm at the job site at 7:30, or actually St. Albans, I'm at the job site at 8 o'clock, meet my vendors, leave at 11, and I'm back at the office by 3.
So you've had to go further afield
Absolutely, to keep
things
your
going.
to keep your construction interest growing. Absolutely.
Because construction, what has happened to the construction market? How would you can compare that to in 2005 to now or whatever?
Well,
That's 5 years.
let's go back really
Okay.
to about 98. Back in 98, I was the clerk of the works and project manager for a large 24,000 square foot building here in the Brattleboro area. At that time, they were talking about having computers which were like Apples and CVAXs, and they wanted spreadsheets. And I remember the first meeting we went to, the owner's rep said, well, does anybody have, mailing addresses so we can maybe share some of this? Nobody had it. By 2001, I had one computer in the office. By 2011, we have 5 computers in the office. Okay? The industry has changed in that you never saw out-of-town contractors working in your territory because it was too hard to conduct business. So in 1990, very rarely did you see somebody from Burlington coming down here to build a 10,000 square foot building. It was usually a local contractor, and local meaning between here, Keene, or Greenfield, but not coming, 170 miles away. With computers, specifically emails, electronic cameras, digital printers, electronic transfer of documents. A lot of people won't even know where the project manager is sitting because they could be sitting in Burlington and doing $1 million job down here. So we've had to do the flip side of that, and we never went to St. Albans to do work for a bank, because that bank had their own local vendor taking care of them. Well, today, those banks in St. Albans and throughout the area have facility managers that work maybe in Albany. And that facility manager only cares about two things. Number one, servicing the customer, which is the employee of the bank, and number two, response time. So we've expanded our territory, you might say, by going out of the area, doing things that are computer orientated. So we have we can send electronic photos, we have the email capabilities, the BlackBerry capabilities, so that we can respond to facilities out of the area.
And all that technology has allowed you to really expand your region of reach.
Absolutely.
But it's expected now.
It's absolutely expected. It will be very difficult for a company, not a carpenter or not a house painter, but for a company of house painters or a company of electricians to build a business without geographically, conservatively driving over an hour in any one direction. So our company is licensed in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont. We do not go into New York because the rules and regulations are actually even more burdening than in Vermont. So we just stay out of New York, period.
Mm-hmm. But what that it also has done is increased your competition, has put pressure on you to do that, because somebody from Burlington could be coming down here, or somebody from Manchester, New Hampshire even.
We see that all the time. So as an example, there are companies down in this area, we see them all over, doing work in our area that have Williston and have, Colchester on their side of their truck. At the same time, I had people today in Bonneville working. I have people working in Bennington at a big plaza today working, and yet we do have some jobs right here in town. But you have to be able to go where your work is, and you really can't pass those costs on to the customer.
I'm just thinking this competition, then you have to work smarter if you're going to make the same amount of money.
You have to work a lot smarter,
yeah.
Which goes back to what I was...
Do you feel pinched with this
You
process?
sure do. Which goes back to what I was saying in regards to, like, we work smarter. The guys that are commuting to Bennington are in a vehicle that gets about 24 miles to the gallon.
Mm-hmm.
We try to work smarter by piggybacking 2 service calls. So yesterday, we were in White River Junction, and we were at one side of the street doing a job for one customer, and we were on the other side of the street doing a job for a totally different customer, but we carpooled in one vehicle, sharing the same resources, which is the time to get up there, the gas, and some of the equipment. Where years ago, you'd just say, well, send 2 vehicles up there and just do it. No, you plan and you have to work smarter, absolutely.
So this is really this is where the rubber meets the road in the business world today.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to have a competitive price.
Yeah.
And
You have to work smarter at all times. We just came off of an annual insurance audit, which now puts our workman's comp modification at a 0.82. That's meaning we're getting an 18% discount off the base rate. But more so on that, every 3 years, we use the same insurance agent, and that agent turns around every 3 years and takes all of our insurance needs and packages it and puts it out to bid for us with the major insurance companies. So, there are companies in Hartford, Connecticut, and there are companies over in Keene, and there are companies up in Maine that get to look at our business insurance package, and then they make a bid based on a forecast of volume. How many thousands of dollars we'll have in payroll, how many thousands of dollars we'll have in subcontractor volume, what our gross sales will be. They bid on that, and then they give us their rates, and we look at that with our local insurance agent. who does a great job of representing us, and try to find out which company will be best for us for that 3-year period. So that's working smarter. Just, look at all your resources and say, how can I bundle them together to get the maximum buying power so that the rubber meets the road, as you said, whether it's gasoline or insurance, you're trying to keep your costs down.
And you can just see that the insurance companies have done the same thing, in those different arenas.
I think all companies have done that in the arenas. There's been a fear of big box stores coming in and blowing the doors off of the local lumber yards. Well, I don't believe that fear is as big as it sounds. Do we buy stuff at a big box store? Yeah, usually, and it happens to be, generally speaking, the lost leader consumables, the dust masks, the roller covers, never the lumber, never the ceiling grid, because there's actually
Quality control.
quality control, because there is a double set of standards.
Mhm.
You might think you're getting a yellow battery operated drill or a green and yellow tractor, but they're made with different components, so they're pretty smart about it.
Yeah.
You see it here with our local vendors that participate in True Value, and I don't mean to throw names out there, Ace Hardware. They're buying groups. So they're out there trying to pull together their best package to compete against the big box stores. And you might say we're out there as GPI Construction, Joe Fortier and I are out there trying to pull together our best package of pricing to give to our potential customers for repeat business. And that's what it takes.
Yeah. Well, it also sounds like it's even because of all this organization needed and so forth, you need more people specializing in these different aspects to help you work. But it would be harder to even really start out and be a solo operator nowadays. I mean, you're really limited on what you can do if you're just solo, it sounds.
I believe that the ability for a solo person to start a business and then nurture that so it grows is really hard today. I know that I started the business with a partner that lasted about 4 months, and a customer of mine said to me at that time, "You don't need a partner, just be in control and do it." And that's what we did. When you look at being a sole proprietor and a small business person versus a business that might have 5 or 7 or 10 employees, there's an awful lot on the line. You really may want to have somebody else share both the financial responsibilities to the lending institutions and also the mental responsibilities, because
Meeting payroll is a headache.
meeting payroll is a headache. Taking a vacation and prorating paychecks so that you can enjoy yourself for 2 weeks is a major headache. And at the same time, worrying about who's watching the store while you're on that 2-week vacation or 1-week vacation is also a major headache. So I would have a tendency to say that if you really want to develop a business, you should find someone who you're willing to be glued to the hip with, that has the same passion as you do, and make sure both of you share at least 51% of all the job responsibilities every day, because that's how you can develop your business, grow, and at the same time have a little peace of mind. So if you do take time off, or if you're got a bad case of the flu for a week, you're not worried about who's minding the store.
Yeah. On that note, we're going to have to end this session. We're going to ask you to stick around for another session because we want to talk some more. But we thank you for watching. You've been watching Neighbor to Neighbor. My name is Lynn Coram, and I've been here with Art Greenbaum from GPI Construction. And we'll see you on our next show. Thanks for watching.